In the mid-20th century, the beautiful island nation, Haiti, was gripped by instability and vulnerability. The country was still reeling from the devastating impact of the 1954 Hurricane Hazel that unleashed its fury on the impoverished country and claimed over 1,000 lives. This natural disaster compounded the existing troubles of the Haitian people, who had suffered through a painful history of colonialism, slavery, and foreign interventions. Ever since gaining independence in 1804 after a successful slave rebellion led by Toussaint Louverture, Haiti had struggled to establish a stable and representative government, marked by a dizzying succession of coups, revolts, and temporary governments. Corruption was rampant, and the majority of Haitians languished in crushing poverty while a small mulatto elite dominated business and commerce. It was during this period of upheaval and uncertainty that an unassuming doctor from the countryside named François Duvalier stepped onto the national political stage. Known for his medical work, he leveraged his reputation as a healer and champion of the underdog to ascend to the presidency. Born in Port-au-Prince in 1907 to a lower-middle-class family, his father was a postal worker while his mother stayed home to care for the children. As a boy, he was a studious child and found school to be an escape from his family's humble circumstances. After completing secondary school, he enrolled in the University of Haiti's School of Medicine in 1928, standing out at the university for his intellect and stern demeanor. He graduated with high honors in 1934 and was immediately offered a position as a staff physician at one of Port-au-Prince's main hospitals. For the next 9 years, Duvalier would hone his medical skills while developing a reputation for having an affinity for helping the poor. During this time, he gained the infamous name Papa Doc from his grateful patients, impressed by his spirit of service and devotion to their well-being. In 1943, he left the public hospital and opened his own small private practice. His clinic soon overflowed with patients as word spread that Papa Doc provided excellent care, regardless of a person's ability to pay. Duvalier supplemented his income by writing about folk medicine and voodoo practices for academic journals. He became intimately familiar with the lives and traditions of Haiti's rural poor majority. Now, when first entering the presidential race in 1956, he shrewdly appealed to the black majority, promising to challenge the dominance of the lighter-skinned mulatto elite and bring about a revolution where the working man would assume power. His humble origins and record of helping the poor lent credibility to his populist rhetoric. For a country that had languished under a succession of corrupt leaders, Duvalier represented a hopeful change. When he emerged victorious in the 1957 election, throngs of jubilant supporters accompanied him. However, this initial euphoria soon faded. Once in power, he ruled with an iron fist, ruthlessly eliminating rivals and dissenters. The humanitarian doctor disappeared, replaced by a cold autocrat who would stop at nothing to maintain control. The rise of François Duvalier from a small-town physician who tended to the poor to a ruthless dictator who terrorized Haiti was a shocking transformation. His election victory, propelled by promises of empowerment and overthrowing the elite, had sparked hope among the long-suffering lower classes. Only 1 year into his presidency, he faced an attempted coup launched by military officers seeking his ouster. Rattled but determined, he took swift action to shore up his power and prevent further challenges. First, he reduced the size of the army and stripped it of resources, correctly perceiving the military as the greatest threat to his rule. Next, he created a new paramilitary force called the Tonton Macoutes. Named after a mythical bogeyman used to frighten children, this entity acted as his personal guard, identifying and eliminating political opponents. Ruthless and feared, they were instrumental in helping him consolidate control and withstand attempts to unseat him. While the early years of his rule also saw some populist policies aimed at assisting the rural and urban poor through public works and social programs, his priority remained eliminating challenges to his authority. By 1964, when he declared himself president for life and essentially established a dictatorship, by now, any traces of the humanitarian doctor had been eclipsed by the personality cult and brutal tactics of a tyrant desperately clinging to power. This deeply repressive police state terrorized Haitians. The Tonton projected a menacing image, clad in denim shirts, dark glasses, and hats made of straw. Armed with machetes and guns, they were licensed to use unchecked brutality to root out and eliminate suspected dissidents. Those new recruits, drawn mainly from the poorer classes of Haitian society, were lacking education or skills. These men felt empowered by his authority. Their methods included abductions, torture, public executions, and leaving corpses of the regime's victims on streets as warnings that you could be next. The omnipresence of the Tonton allowed Papa to instill a climate of fear and paranoia across the country. Neighbors and family members suspected of disloyalty were targeted, and victims had no recourse to justice. He also co-opted elements of Haiti's indigenous religion, Vodou, to root their power in spiritual authority. Propagating an image of omnipotence and mysticism, the Makouts became his most effective weapon for quashing opposition and dissent. The result was a police state where the population lived under constant terror of being the next victim of his death squad. Papa also sought to isolate Haiti from foreign influence and criticism. He denounced the United States as an imperialist power and expelled the American ambassador in 1963, severing ties with the Organization of American States, and rejected its attempts to mediate the political crisis in Haiti. He cultivated relations with Communist China and Cuba, hoping to gain their support and, mostly, their foreign aid. Examples like refusing to join the association called the Alliance for Progress, a U.S.-led initiative to promote economic and social development in Latin America, withdrawing from the Inter-American Defense Board, a regional security organization, and nationalizing several foreign-owned companies like the Haitian American Sugar Company and the Standard Fruit Company. The U.S. was also accused of plotting against him and supporting his enemies, like the exiled former President Paul Magloire, who led several failed invasions of Haiti. But there's no real evidence of the U.S. supporting that movement. When François Duvalier died of a heart attack in 1971, he left behind a legacy of tyranny and terror in Haiti. His son, Jean-Claude, known as Baby Doc, took over his dictatorship at the age of 19. He lacked his father's charisma and political skills, and faced increasing opposition and unrest. He tried to appease the United States and other Western powers by improving relations and inviting foreign investment, also easing some of the repression of his father's regime, freeing some political prisoners and welcoming some exiles back, but it did not change the core of his father's rule: corruption and human rights violations, conveniently keeping the Tonton Makoutis as his personal militia, who continued to extort and intimidate the people. Indulging in a luxurious lifestyle, spending millions on his wedding, cars, and mansions, while most Haitians lived in extreme poverty. In 1986, after massive protests and international pressure, Baby Doc fled the country, ending the 29-year-long Duvalier dynasty. But the nightmare of Papa Doc's regime was not over. Haiti entered a period of political chaos and violence as different groups competed for power. Democracy remained out of reach. The Makoutis did not vanish with the departure of the Duvaliers. Many of them stayed loyal to the former regime and opposed any efforts at reform or justice. They also became deeply involved in more criminal activities like drug trafficking and kidnapping for ransom. The regime left a lasting impact on the Haitian culture and religion. Baby Doc followed his father's example, claiming he was also in touch with powerful spirits of the Haitian folk religion. This misuse of voodoo scarred the psyche of Haitians. Many of them associated it with the horrors of the Duvalier regime rather than as a cherished expression of their culture and identity. The victims of the Duvalier regime never received justice or closure, even after Baby returned to Haiti in 2011. He was charged with human rights violations and corruption, but the legal process was slow and ineffective. He died in 2014 without ever being convicted, leaving many Haitians angry and frustrated. For them, overcoming Papa Doc's legacy is still an ongoing struggle. The country has faced other dictatorships since, insane levels of political violence and natural disasters in recent decades. The traces of the Duvalier dynasty's oppressive rule linger in Haiti's weak democracy and institutions. But the Haitian people have not given up their hope for a better future, a future that could look like this fight right over here.